Some people who are alcoholics or drug abusers continue to drink and continue to use drugs, knowing that if their life was threatened, they would stop, and knowing that they have the strength to stop at any time, but being unwilling to do it because they don't feel that the threat to their life is there. And then the threat comes. They go to the doctor, they go in for a physical, they find out that they've got a lump on their lungs, they find out that their wife is going to leave them because they're abusing drugs all the time, they're going to lose their family, and they come home one day and their family is gone. Or whatever. And that's like a near-death experience emotionally, to lose your family or to find out that you've got lung cancer or whatever. And they instantly become transformed. Now, what does it take to get people to get the big picture? Or what does it take to get people to change? The answer to that is different for everybody. I can't pretend to say that I have an answer. There are some people who need, for example, to change, they need a support group, and they need a therapist, and they need to go to a rehabilitation center, and they need to read 400 books, and they need to listen to these kinds of tapes, and they need to reinforce it over and over and over again in their lives in order to change. And that's the way some people are wired together. And that's all fine. And if that's how your internal circuitry works, then by all means, go with it. I, on the other hand, am not that kind of a person. I make decisions instantaneously about what my life is going to be or not going to be. When I was a young boy, I tasted coffee. I had a cup of coffee that was given to me. I was about 14 or 15 years old. I tasted it. It was bitter. It tasted funny. It tasted like chemicals that I didn't want to. And I said to my mother and my brothers, I will never drink coffee in my life. Now I'm 49 years old now, okay? That was many, many years ago. It was 35 years ago. And I tasted it, knew it, and made that declaration, and I have never had a cup of coffee since then. I look at the coffee, people offer it to me and everything, and I just know that I don't want that bitter taste in my mouth, and I don't want that caffeine, and I know that, all right? So that's how I am able to make change. But that doesn't mean that that's the right way, and that's the best way. And I can sit here with great confidence and say that I won't be drinking coffee, and I'll never have a cigarette. I can say that for certain, having quit 25 years ago. And I can say for certain about a lot of things in my life, that I won't be overweight, that I will stay in shape, and all of those kinds of things. For others, it's a daily struggle, and it's like it's coming to know yourself. So the path to the big picture is different for everyone. But the understanding has to be that the big picture is there, and its availability is there. And if you need to have a near-death experience, like Marilyn did, in order to get that big picture and be able to relax in the face of conflict, be able to not allow yourself to get stressed out over small things, being able to enjoy your present moments and find fulfillment and joy in them, then have that near-death experience. But have it in your mind only. Okay? So create that experience for yourself. One of the ways to do that is through meditation. Another way to do that is just by visualizing or just imaging it for yourself. Participate in your own funeral, in your mind, if you have to. See yourself dying of a horrible disease and suffering. Go through it. Experience it. Die while you're alive. Experience that whole thing. And as you experience that, see for yourself that this doesn't have to be brought into form. That I can act it out in my mind like a dream, live through it, get the experience of it, and then decide, well, I don't have to bring this into my form any longer. And make then a decision not to do it. So whatever it takes for you, all I'm saying is that you don't have to go through it in the world of form. In your physical world, you can transform, go beyond your form. You can be metaphysical, go beyond the physical, experience it in your mind where there are no limits. There's no limits to your imagination. There's no limits to your thoughts. But literally be there. And then when you come out of it, realize that, okay, that's enough. I've done that now. Let me practice the big picture. Let me see it isn't anything that I have to really create in my life any more than that. And once you're able to do that, once you can create that for yourself, then you get all the benefits of the big picture. By the big picture, I mean, you know in your heart and in your soul that there's more to life than just what my body is going through. And you know that there's nothing worth getting yourself all bogged down about and getting all depressed about and all worked up about. You know it all. You see all of that. And everything that I'm doing to create that, like Marilyn, I'm always amazed at Marilyn, how she's able to just let all of that stuff just float by her. When the kids have this particular part, when my brother gets on her about that, or when things aren't going, how she just sort of calmly, and ever since that accident, has calmly just gone off in a corner and just sort of let it all work itself out. It's part of the surrendering process.
We all live in the presence of what we imagine to be an ideal future, and yet, in our fixation on what lies ahead, we often miss the richness, the fullness, the utter magnificence of the present moment. There are many who are consumed with the idea of what they have not yet achieved, of where they are not yet, of what they have not yet experienced. And in this pursuit, they forget the life that is unfolding right in front of them. The truth is, the only life that truly exists is this one, the one happening right now. The future is a mere illusion. It is not a place you arrive at, but a destination made from the thoughts you carry today. If you allow yourself to be entranced by the future, you may find yourself missing the only moment that truly matters, the one you are living right now. Do you understand that the present moment is all there ever is? The future that you chase is a mirage that promises happiness, but it never truly arrives. The only true moment of power is this very second, right now. You are here, breathing, feeling, being, and yet so many of us are looking beyond, yearning for what's next. We race towards some undefined goal, thinking that we will find fulfillment when we reach it, but fulfillment is already available to you in the here and now, if only you open your eyes to it. The ego tells us that we need more achievements, more possessions, more approval, and as we chase these external markers, we forget that the greatest fulfillment lies within. It is not in the future that we will find peace. It is right now in the stillness of our being where we reconnect to the soul, to the divine essence that has always been there. The truth is, you were born into wholeness. The story of your life has always been unfolding, and it will continue to unfold, but only when you stop chasing a future that is perpetually out of reach and begin embracing the beauty of now. I want to remind you of something fundamental. You are not your ego. You are not the achievements you think you need to attain to prove your worth. Your ego will continue to chase after approval, success, recognition, but none of these things can ever define you. When you realize that you are not your ego, you will stop chasing after a future that keeps you bound to the illusion of lack. You will understand that you are already whole. You are already enough. And this understanding will transform your experience of life. Imagine, if you will, for a moment, that you were freed from the need to chase anything. No more measuring yourself against others. No more striving for a future that seems ever elusive. What if, instead of striving, you chose to simply be? You are already everything you seek. It's within you right now. The keys to the kingdom are not hidden in some distant time, but right within your heart in the present moment. When you release the need to chase a future, you align with the truth that you are a divine being, and you stop living in the dream of what could be. You come home to the now, to the space where true peace exists. You see, there is great wisdom in the present. In this moment, your life is already unfolding in the way it is meant to. Every breath, every beat of your heart, every thought and every emotion, it is all part of the divine plan that is woven into the fabric of your soul. The future is a projection of your mind, an image shaped by your desires, your fears, your fantasies, but it is not real. The real power, the real magic is in your willingness to be present, to surrender the past, to release the future, and to live in this moment with full awareness. In every moment, the soul whispers to you. The soul does not reside in the future. It is not concerned with what will be, because it knows the deep truth that it is eternal, unchanging, and free. The soul knows that you are not defined by the conditions of your life. You are not limited by your circumstances. The soul speaks in stillness, in presence. It does not demand, it does not chase. It is already whole, already complete, and it invites you to remember this truth. So, I ask you, what is it that you are chasing? What future are you running toward? And when you get there, when you finally reach that elusive destination, will you truly find what you are looking for? Or will you find, as so many before you have, that the future is always moving just out of reach, and by the time you arrive, it will already be yesterday? The future, my friend, is an illusion. It is always tomorrow, never now. In your life, what if you chose to stop chasing and began to simply live? What if you allowed yourself the grace to rest in the present moment? The moment you stop striving, the moment you stop trying to outrun yourself, is the moment you begin to truly live. Life is not a race. It is not a series of milestones you must reach to be worthy. Life is an unfolding journey, and every moment you miss chasing a distant future is a moment you will never get back. You are the author of your life, and you do not need to wait for the perfect future to write your story. You can begin right now. The beauty of the present moment is that it is all you ever need. The world is in constant motion, and yet, here you are, standing still in the vast expanse of time with everything you need to experience peace and fulfillment within you. When you realize this, you stop running. You stop chasing. You stop measuring yourself by what you haven't yet achieved. You begin to see that you are already enough, that you are already whole, and that this moment is where life is truly happening. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment to feel at peace. You don't have to wait until you have more success, more love, more recognition. The fullness you seek is already here, in the now. When you embrace the present, you release the burden of waiting for something outside of you to change. The peace you seek is not found in some distant future, but in the quiet acceptance of this very moment. When you stop chasing the future, you are free to live your life fully. The soul is not concerned with tomorrow. It is concerned only with this moment, this breath, this step. And so, my friend, I invite you to join the soul in this dance of life. Be present. Stop waiting. Stop chasing. The future will come, but it will come on its own terms. It will unfold in its own time, and when it does, you will be ready, not because you spent your days chasing it, but because you spent your days living fully in the now. You are not defined by what you have or have not achieved. You are defined by your capacity to be present, to be whole, to be at peace, and in this peace, all things are possible. When you stop chasing a future, you align with the divine flow of life, and you begin to experience the miracles of the present moment. The future is not a place you get to. It is a series of moments strung together, and every moment you live is a gift. Don't miss your life chasing a future that has not yet arrived. Live now. And in that living, you will discover that you are everything you have ever sought. In this life, the only certainty is the present. And so, my friend, I leave you with this truth. Do not chase a future that will never be. Live in the now. Embrace the fullness of the present. For in doing so, you will discover that you are already enough, that you are already whole, and that you are already living the life you have been seeking all along. Let go, be here, be now. As you breathe, you begin to understand the simplicity of the truth. Life is not something you have to force. It is something you flow with. In the dance between your breath and the beating of your heart, there is a harmony that transcends the chaos of the world. It is in the silence between your thoughts, in the stillness between your movements, that you find the deepest connection to your soul. You see, you are not meant to fight life, you are meant to align with it. The more you fight, the more you separate yourself from the peace that is your birthright. But when you release the need to control, the struggle ceases, and the universe begins to work with you, not against you. In this moment of surrender, you start to feel a shift, a subtle yet profound shift. You begin to see yourself not as an individual fighting against the tides, but as an integral part of the vast ocean. The waves come and go, but the ocean remains, unshaken, ever-present, eternal. You are that ocean. The waves of life, joy, pain, success, failure are simply passing moments. They do not define you. What defines you is the essence of your being, the stillness that remains when everything else fades away. Now, let us be clear. This is not to say that life will become easy. The ebb and flow will continue. The challenges will arise. The storm clouds will gather. But when you are aligned with your truth, when you are grounded in the stillness that resides deep within you, nothing can disturb your peace. You will find that even in the midst of the storm, you can remain calm. You will find that the world may spin, but you are anchored. And in this anchoring, there is a wisdom that begins to awaken within you. It is the wisdom of the soul ancient, timeless, and always present. The wisdom that tells you that you are not your circumstances, you are the observer of your circumstances. You are the space in which everything occurs, and in this space there is infinite potential for creation. It is not in the effort that you find your power, but in the surrender. It is in the letting go of the need to control that you discover your true strength. The strength of the soul is not the strength to manipulate or force things into being. It is the strength to trust, to allow, to flow with the current of life. And when you do this, when you release the need to hold on, you will discover that everything you have been searching for has always been here inside of you. You see, the journey is not about becoming something you are not. It is about unbecoming everything that you are not. It is about stripping away the layers of conditioning, the layers of fear, the layers of self-doubt that have been placed upon you by others, by society, and by your own mind. These layers obscure the truth of who you are. But when you release them, when you breathe and let them go, you uncover the radiant being that you have always been. This is the power of realignment, is the power of returning to your true self. The self that was never broken, never lost, never lacking. You have always been whole. You have always been complete. And as you let go of the past, you make room for the future to unfold, not as a series of random events, but as a deliberate expression of your soul's purpose. So, what happens when you realign? The answer is simple. You begin to see the world differently. You begin to see that every challenge is an opportunity for growth. Every person that enters your life, no matter how they appear, is a reflection of your own inner state. You begin to realize that everything that happens for you, not to you. And with this realization comes a deep sense of peace, for you understand that you are not a victim of life, but a co-creator. And this is the most empowering truth you will ever come to know. You have the power to create your reality. It is not your circumstances that shape you, but the way you respond to them. When you breathe deeply, when you release the old stories, when you realign with your soul, you open yourself up to the infinite possibilities that are available to you. You become the creator of your experience. You begin to live with purpose, with intention, and with a sense of divine direction. But this requires trust. Trust that the universe knows what you need before you even ask. Trust that everything is unfolding perfectly, even when it doesn't look the way you think it should. Trust that every experience, no matter how challenging, is part of your soul's evolution. And when you trust, you stop resisting, you stop pushing against the current, you stop trying to force life into a mold that is not meant for you. And in that space of trust, you allow life to move you, guide you, and shape you into the highest expression of yourself. Breathe, release, realign. In this simple practice lies the key to your transformation. It is not complicated. It is not something that requires years of study or self-improvement. It is simply a choice to let go of the illusions that you are not enough, that you are not worthy, that you are not deserving of all the good that life has to offer. It is a choice to align with the truth that you are already whole, already abundant, already free. And as you make that choice, you begin to live in a way that reflects the infinite love and power that resides within you. This is the gift that life offers you in every moment, the gift of choice. The choice to breathe deeply, to release what no longer serves you, and to realign with the truth of who you are. The choice to trust in the flow of life, to let go of the need for control, and to surrender to the wisdom of the soul. And as you do this, you will find that life becomes easier, more fulfilling, more joyful, and more aligned with your highest purpose. So, my friend, I invite you to take a deep breath with me now, to feel the life force that flows through you, to release all the doubts, all the fears, all the burdens that you've been carrying, to realign with your soul, with your true self. And as you do, know that you are not alone. The entire universe is supporting you. You are loved, you are enough, you are free. Breathe, release, realign, and know that you are exactly where you need to be. There comes a sacred turning point, quiet, unannounced, when you no longer crave escape because you have found sanctuary in your own presence. Not because life has become less demanding, but because your relationship to it is transformed. You begin to realize that peace is not the absence of pressure, it is the presence of clarity within it. And this clarity is born not from answers, but from stillness. A stillness so honest that it silences all false narratives with one whisper of truth. You were never lost. You were only distracted from the center. In this rediscovery, you feel a different kind of strength. Take root not the kind that battles for survival, but the kind that blooms in surrender. Not the might that shouts, but the power that listens. You begin to trust the pauses between decisions, the soft intuition that rises without effort. And with each choice made from this place of inner listening, your life aligns not in some distant future, but right here, beneath your feet. What you once labeled as delays or detours are now seen as sacred recalibrations. The very things you thought were working against you have quietly been rerouting you toward deeper wholeness. There is wisdom hidden in the waiting, in the pauses that used to frustrate you. There is grace in the detours that protect you from destinations too small for your soul. Life you now see has always been more interested in your becoming than your arriving. As you return to this deeper way of being, you no longer seek to fill the silence with noise. The quiet becomes your teacher, revealing that many of your anxieties were born not from reality, but from the mind's habit of forecasting storms that never arrive. You begin to notice the way serenity arises when you stop asking life to match your plans and instead begin listening to what life itself is asking of you. In that listening, a softer rhythm emerges. You no longer wake to a to-do list of worthiness. You rise with reverence. You move not out of obligation, but out of alignment. You speak less to be understood and more to express the integrity of your spirit. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to remain rooted rather than react. Every challenge becomes a portal not to power over anything, but to power within everything. This inner anchoring changes the nature of your presence, not in some performance of enlightenment, but in the effortless way your calm steadies the atmosphere around you. You become less interested in persuading the world and more committed to embodying truth. Your very existence becomes a quiet invitation. Come sit in your own soul for a while. You are safe here. And the world, without knowing why, begins to breathe easier around you. As you continue to move through life from this deeper alignment, urgency falls away. You no longer measure your worth by milestones or timelines. You know now that the most sacred unfolding cannot be rushed. That becoming is not a race, it's a revelation. And revelation does not arrive by force, but by faith. Faith in the unseen. faith in the whispers, faith in the unfolding architecture of your spirit's expansion. You stop chasing closure and start inviting openness. You stop clinging to outcomes and start honoring the process. You stop bargaining with life and start dancing with it. Because in this state of real union with your truth, you realize there is nothing to win and nothing to prove. There is only the beauty of participating fully, honestly, and consciously in the miracle of being alive. And perhaps the most radical shift of all is this: you begin to forgive yourself. Not just for the mistakes, but for the misunderstanding that you were ever broken to begin with. You no longer carry shame like a shadow. You walk forward in the light of compassion. You understand now that self-forgiveness is not an erasure of responsibility. It is the deepest form of responsibility to heal, to grow, and to stop making yourself smaller than the love that lives inside you. So let this moment be a new kind of vow, not a promise to change everything overnight, but a sacred willingness to stay awake, to be present, to honor the unfolding of your soul's unique rhythm. Let your life become less about what you're trying to fix and more about what you're learning to feel, to love, to witness without judgment. That is where the real alchemy lives. And with every breath that enters your body now, feel this deeper alignment settling in, not as a destination reached, but as a homecoming allowed. There's no need to chase healing. There's only the invitation to stay open to it, to become spacious enough for it to happen through you. Life does not need your perfection. It needs your participation, your willingness to show up with honesty and softness, your courage to walk the path barefoot, one step at a time toward truth. So walk on tenderly, boldly, without the burden of needing to understand everything. Walk not to escape where you are, but to meet more of who you are. And with each breath, with each quiet act of letting go, you will discover the path has been loving you forward all along. And now, as this path of remembrance draws near its quiet close, feel within you the stillness that has always been there like an ancient lake untouched by the winds of time. It does not demand attention. It does not cry out. It simply waits for your return. This stillness is your truth. Not what the world asked you to become, not what fear tried to sculpt, but the eternal presence that has always watched patiently as you wandered, knowing you would one day return not with shame, but with reverence. You do not arrive here empty-handed. You carry sacred lessons written in the ink of experience. You carry softened edges where once there were thorns. You carry an open heart, cracked not by loss, but by awakening. And through those cracks, light has entered, not the kind that blinds, but the kind that reveals. Light that does not burn away who you were, but blesses it, honors it, forgives it. You see now, even the detours had holy hands guiding them. Even your wounds had wisdom folded inside. You were never off course. You were never behind. You were simply being unraveled, gently, lovingly, until your soul could fit back into its rightful form. What grace then to see that all along the obstacles were teachers, the delays were sacred pauses, the heartbreaks were doorways. Each one broke something false apart. Each one led you deeper, not into despair, but into depth. Not into despair, but into truth. And what is that truth, really? It is not some grand philosophy. It is something you can feel, even when words fall short. It is the knowing that you are not separate from life, you are life. You are not a drop in the ocean hoping to be accepted by the tide. You are the tide. You are not here to seek love, you are here to embody it. You are not a fractured soul trying to be repaired. You are a whole presence awakening from a long, forgetful sleep. So breathe with that truth now. Breathe in the peace that comes from no longer needing to chase. Breathe in the relief of no longer needing to perform. Breathe in the beauty of no longer trying to earn what was already yours. Your enoughness, your belonging, your divine place in the tapestry of existence. This is not something you achieve. This is something you allow. Release then, not just what was heavy, but what was hollow. Release the ideas that never truly fit, the beliefs that whispered you were too much or not enough. Release the rush to arrive and honor the sacredness of the unfolding. Release the habit of self-neglect disguised as productivity. Release the mask that smiles when your soul longs to speak. Let it fall. Let it all fall gently, like autumn leaves returning to the earth. And as everything false is laid to rest, you realign not through effort, but through remembrance. You realign by breathing into the space where your soul can finally stretch. You realign by walking your path with less armor and more presence. You realign by choosing grace when the old patterns call you back. You realign by honoring the truth, even when it trembles on your lips. Let this be your new rhythm. Not striving, but listening. Not forcing, but flowing. Not waiting to be chosen, but knowing you are already chosen by life itself. Your existence is not a mistake. It is music, it is medicine, it is movement. And when you live from this place, you do not need to seek purpose, it begins to seek you. In the still corners of the day, may you find yourself softening. In the chaos of the world, may you become the calm. In the mirror, may you meet not a reflection of failure, but the eyes of someone who dared to return. And with each returning breath, may you remember, nothing outside of you holds the key. It is in your inhale, it is in your release, it is in the courage to realign. Again and again. So live gently now, not as someone racing toward healing, but as someone who is no longer hiding from it. Live boldly now, not as someone demanding to be seen, but as someone finally willing to see. Live fully now, not because you've figured it all out, but because you've stopped needing to. And when the world asks who you are, may your very presence answer, I am not who I was. I am not what happened. I am not the echo of my fears. I am the breath returning home. I am the space between the noise. I am the soul. Awake in my own name. Breathe. Release. Realign. And let your life, from this day forward, be the reflection of a soul finally free.
There comes a moment in every life when the soul whispers softly at first that something isn't right, that despite the things you've gathered, the achievements you've counted, the steps you've followed, something remains untouched, unawakened, unfulfilled. Not because life has failed you, but because your thoughts have not yet remembered their power. You see, you are not merely a body moving through the world. You are a field of consciousness creating it. And the lens through which you look at the world, your thoughts, is not a passive reflection of life, but the very projector of its quality. What you think is not just commentary, it's alchemy. You don't see things as they are. You see things as you are through the stories you've chosen, through the meanings you've inherited, through the emotions you allow to linger like smoke in the chambers of your mind. Your outer world is always mirroring the dominant vibration of your inner world. And your thinking, moment by moment, is the tuning fork. The universe, being eternally impartial, says only this: as you believe, so shall it be done unto you. You are not what the world calls you. You are not your name, your title, your reputation, or your fears. You are the thinker behind the thoughts, the dreamer behind the mask, the awareness, watching it all unfold, and waiting, always waiting, for you to reclaim your authorship of this life. Most people never pause to wonder, who is doing the thinking in here? And where did these thoughts come from? They repeat patterns like a song stuck on repeat. Songs of lack, of worry, of comparison, of judgment, never realizing that they are dancing to music. They never chose that their mind has become a house built by strangers, and now they live inside it, calling it truth. But thought is not fixed. It is fluid. It can be questioned, it can be healed, it can be elevated, and when it is, life itself begins to take a new shape. The quality of your life is not determined by the conditions you're in, but by the conversations you're having with yourself about those conditions. It's not the storm that breaks you. It's the belief that you cannot sail through it. Begin to listen, truly listen, to the voice that speaks just beneath the noise, the still, silent knowing that's always been with you. It doesn't shout, it doesn't panic, it doesn't echo the world's madness. It simply reminds you, you are not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses which thoughts get to stay. And that is the first liberation, to recognize that you are not a prisoner of your thinking. You are its master. But mastery begins with awareness. Every moment you catch yourself thinking a thought that limits you, a thought that shrinks your spirit or dim your light, is a holy moment, a spiritual opportunity. Not to shame yourself, but to remember yourself. To remember that no one installed that thought without your permission, and that now, in this breath, you can choose again. The quality of your life is not waiting at the end of some distant achievement. It is shaped, molded in the unseen furnace of your inner dialogue. Do you feed the flame of resentment? Do you pour gasoline on thoughts of fear, of not being enough, of being left behind? Do you carry the past into today like a sack of stones, repeating, "This is just how I am," as if your identity were carved in stone rather than breathed into being? Or do you wake up each morning and choose a new vibration? Do you speak to yourself with love before the world gets a chance to interfere? Do you plant thoughts of peace, joy, forgiveness, and water them with presence until they bloom into a life that reflects your soul? Most people treat thoughts like facts, but thoughts are just clouds passing through the vast sky of your awareness. You are not the cloud, you are the sky. And in that realization, you are free. Let me ask you gently, what have you been thinking about today? Because that's what you've been living. The world around you is echoing back the tone you set in silence, and nothing will change until the thinking does. So if you want to heal your relationships, change your thinking about connection. If you want to find peace, change your thinking about the past. If you want to create abundance, change your thinking about worth. And if you want to love yourself, change your thinking about who you believe you are. It is never about adding more. It is always about subtracting the noise. You were born whole. You were born wise. You were born connected to the divine. And every thought that told you otherwise was an illusion borrowed from a world that forgot how to see. But today you remember, that is the beginning of everything. The moment you begin to observe your thinking without becoming it, something miraculous happens. A quiet space opens up between stimulus and response, between the noise of the world and the whisper of your soul. In that space lives your power not to react, but to choose, not to cling, but to release, not to fear, but to trust. And that single shift from automatic to aware begins to alter the very texture of your life. You stop being dragged by circumstance and start becoming guided by consciousness. You stop trying to control the uncontrollable and begin to align with what is eternal within you. There is no circumstance outside of you that holds more weight than the thoughts you are rehearsing inside you. You may not control what others do, what they say, or what has already happened, but you do control the meaning you assign to it. And meaning is everything. A thought of betrayal can become a teacher of boundaries. A thought of loss can become a doorway to gratitude. A thought of failure can become the seed of wisdom. It all depends on the thinker. We've been conditioned to believe that happiness is circumstantial, that peace is a destination, that worth must be proven. But none of that is true. It never was. The outer world is merely the shadow cast by the shape of your thoughts. And when you sculpt those thoughts with love, with intention, with a gentle but firm sense of presence, the world reflects a beauty that was waiting all along. No spiritual teacher, no enlightened soul ever reached peace by rearranging the furniture of the world. They reached it by rearranging the architecture of their inner world. They learned to master the mind, to see through its tricks, to soften the grip of judgment, and to return again and again to the spaciousness of now. They did not wait for perfect conditions. They created a perfect perception. And that is the invitation for you. The quality of your life is shaped by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Not, why is this happening to me? But what is this showing me? Not, what do I lack? But what is life trying to bring forward in me through this? The quality of your thinking is determined by your willingness to surrender the need to be right, to be certain, to be in control. Because real transformation does not come from control. It comes from trust. It comes from the surrender of false stories and the embrace of the sacred present. You were not born to ruminate in regret or spiral in worry. You were born to create. And your primary creation is the thought you allow to take root in your mind. That thought becomes emotion. That emotion becomes behavior. That behavior becomes character. And character becomes destiny. Trace it all back, and it begins with one silent seed, one thought. So plant well. Think of your thoughts as guests in the temple of your mind. Who are you letting in today? Who are you allowing to sit at the table of your awareness? Are they voices of fear or faith? Are they the voices of past wounds or present miracles? You are the gatekeeper. You are the master gardener. And whatever you nourish within will blossom in the world without. Do not underestimate this power. It is not a metaphor. It is spiritual law. Change the frequency of your thoughts, and you will alter the symphony of your life. This is not about positive thinking for the sake of ignoring pain. It is about conscious thinking that acknowledges pain but does not build a home inside it. It is about choosing the higher perspective even when the lower one screams louder. It is about rising not because the world demands it, but because your soul remembers its wings. And yes, there will be days when the old thoughts return, when the inner critic bangs on the door, when the fog sets in again. That's okay. This is not a path of perfection. It is a path of presence. And presence is a practice. Every moment you return to your breath, every moment you observe without judgment, every moment you choose a higher thought that is victory, that is healing, that is awakening. Your thoughts are not who you are. They are passing weather systems in the vast sky of your being. Let them come, let them go, but don't let them build cities without your consent. Don't let them shape your life from unconscious repetition. You are not here to be a mirror of past programming. You are here to be a lighthouse, steady, awake, and rooted in truth. Let go of the belief that change begins outside of you. Let go of the belief that one day, when circumstances are just right, then you'll feel peace. The truth is simpler and more liberating. When you choose peaceful thoughts, your life becomes peaceful. When you think thoughts of compassion, you walk in compassion. When you honor yourself in thought, the world begins to honor you. It's not magic, it's alignment. And alignment begins when the mind remembers its servant role, not its master role. When the ego is seen clearly not as an enemy, but as a confused guide doing its best to protect you through fear. But you, dear soul, do not need to be protected by fear. You need to be liberated by truth. And the truth is this: your thinking shapes your frequency. And your frequency writes the melody your life will play. Then listen deeply now. Not just with your ears, but with the whole of your being, with the space behind your chest where the silence lives, with the gentle fire of awareness that never flickers, no matter how chaotic the world becomes. That space knows your life is not dictated by chance, nor is it controlled by fate. It is directed by the silent compass of your attention, and your attention always flows in the direction of your thoughts. Where your focus goes, your energy grows. Where your energy grows, your reality unfolds. And the seed of it all is thought. So if your life feels noisy, heavy, cluttered with conflict and confusion, the answer is not to rearrange the people around you or chase more distractions. The answer is to cleanse the temple of your mind. Dust off the old assumptions, wash away the fear-stained beliefs, open the windows of perception, and let the light of awareness pour in. Ask yourself, is this thought bringing me closer to freedom or further into suffering? That one question, asked honestly and gently, can save a lifetime of unnecessary pain. You do not need to believe every thought you think. You are not obligated to obey the voices that echo with limitation, fear, or doubt. You are allowed to pause, to breathe, to question. You are allowed to say, I no longer choose to live under that belief. And in that moment, chains begin to fall. Not the kind you see with your eyes, but the kind that have been weighing down your spirit for years. And that release, that sweet, invisible liberation, that is the soul beginning to remember itself. Many people are walking through life asleep to the miracle of their mind, asleep to the truth that heaven and hell are not places we go, but frequencies we choose. A thought of bitterness is a step toward hell. A thought of compassion is a step toward heaven. And these steps, taken moment by moment, build the path your feet will follow. Do not wait for a burning bush. Do not wait for thunder in the sky or a voice to break through the clouds. The voice is already inside you. It speaks in the silence. It speaks when you slow down long enough to hear the deeper questions. What am I rehearsing in my mind each day? What am I practicing with my inner dialogue? And does it serve the life I truly want to live? Because here is the hidden truth. You are always practicing something. Every thought you entertain, every judgment you accept, every fear you repeat, you are strengthening a pathway in your mind. That pathway becomes the direction of your life. So ask yourself, is this a path of light? Is this a path of freedom? Or am I unconsciously paving roads to old prisons? You are not broken. You are not behind. You are simply ready to awaken. That is why these words resonate. Not because they are new, but because they are ancient truths you've always known. Deep down, beneath the noise, beneath the conditioning, beneath the expectations, your soul has always whispered, I am the thinker. I am the chooser. And I am free to choose again. Begin now. Begin today. Let this moment be the turning point, not the dramatic kind that needs lightning bolts or emotional fireworks, but the quiet kind where the soul simply stands up and says, no more thoughts that shrink me, no more stories that shame me, no more identities borrowed from pain. In their place, you begin to plant the seeds of clarity, of love, of worthiness. You begin to think as if life is on your side. You begin to believe that peace is not something to chase, but something to allow. You begin to live from the knowing that you are enough, not because you proved it, but because you remembered it. And that shift, subtle though it may be, is how miracles begin. Because when you change the way you think, you change the way you feel. When you change the way you feel, you change what you believe is possible. And when you change what you believe is possible, the universe rearranges itself to reflect that belief. Not because it was withholding, but because you were. You were withholding permission to receive because you didn't believe you were worthy. You were withholding love because you were afraid of being hurt. You were withholding peace because you thought chaos was your default setting. But now you begin to allow. And allowing begins with a thought. A single thought that whispers, what if the old story is not the truth? And once that thought enters, the whole house of illusion begins to shake. Because the mind that has built its home on fear cannot withstand the gentle wind of truth. That truth is simple. You are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not the voice that says you'll never make it. You are the awareness that hears that voice and chooses something higher. So today, choose again. Choose the thought that lifts you. Choose the thought that brings you back to stillness. Choose the thought that speaks to your future, not your fear. And when you forget, because you will simply remember that forgetting is part of remembering. Falling asleep is part of waking up. There is no shame in it. Only grace. The quality of your life is not about what you have. It is not about what they think. It is about what you believe, what you nurture, what you entertain in the invisible world of your mind. And that is where your greatest work must begin, not in trying to force the external, but in softening, cleansing, and renewing the internal. Because when the internal world is healed, the external world becomes a mirror of that healing. And you become the light you were seeking. And when you become the light you were seeking, you stop chasing shadows. You stop grasping at empty promises wrapped in noise. You stop running from yourself because you finally realize there is nowhere to run. Everything you've ever wanted was already resting within the quiet space of your own being, waiting for your thoughts to align with its presence, not to earn it, but to see it. To see that your worth was never in question, only in recognition. That love was never absent, only obscured by the fog of conditioned belief. There is a profound shift that happens when you stop thinking in reaction and begin thinking in creation. When you stop allowing every passing fear to dictate your emotional climate and instead become the conscious author of your internal world. In that shift, you stop being a thermometer reacting to the temperature of the world, and you become the thermostat setting the tone of your life from the inside out. That is not philosophy, that is power. That is freedom, that is mastery. It doesn't happen by force, it happens by remembrance. And remembering is a sacred act. It's sitting in stillness long enough to hear the thoughts beneath the thoughts. It's breathing deeply enough to separate the truth from the trauma. It's choosing to become the observer instead of the reactor again and again until the old wiring begins to dissolve and a new way of being begins to rise. You cannot think your way to peace through judgment. You cannot think your way to love through resistance. But you can return always to a thought that is in harmony with who you truly are. A thought of grace, a thought of openness, a thought of I am already enough. And from that thought, a new vibration radiates outward, not in a shout, but in a silent frequency that draws new realities to your feet. Your job is not to fix the world. Your job is to think in alignment with truth and let the world respond to your alignment. That's how reality changes, not from resistance, but from resonance. If you don't like what life is reflecting, look not at the mirror, but at the face you're presenting to it. Change the internal pattern, and the reflection must follow. So many of us are addicted to fixing. We want to fix the job, the relationship, the circumstances. But rarely do we stop to examine the thinking that attracted those circumstances to begin with. And until that examination takes place, we find ourselves repeating the same storylines with different characters. Because the pattern was never out there, it was in here, in the thoughts we chose to believe, in the identities we wore like armor, in the narratives we never questioned. But now you see it. And with that seeing comes choice. And with choice comes healing. And with healing comes liberation. This is your turning point. Not because the stars have aligned, not because the world has suddenly become easier, but because you've decided to no longer abandon yourself with your thoughts. You've decided to no longer speak to yourself in ways you would never speak to another soul. You've decided to no longer give your power away to fleeting fears and old scripts. You've decided at last to come home to yourself. And home is not a place. It is a state of being. It is the vibration of love you allow yourself to rest in. It is the clarity that emerges when the mind softens. It is the deep, unwavering knowing that you are not here to be perfect, but to be whole. Not here to compete, but to contribute. Not here to survive, but to awaken. And awakening begins with thought. Not loud ones, not dramatic ones, but subtle, consistent thoughts of truth. Thoughts like, I am not my past. I am not this fear. I am not a victim of circumstance. I am a divine being, temporarily inhabiting form. I am allowed to think new thoughts. I am allowed to release the old. I am allowed to create a new reality, starting now, and then you do. Not all at once, but moment by moment, thought by thought, and those small shifts begin to gather, like droplets that become a stream, a current, a river, and finally a sea of transformation. You look around and the world seems to smile back, not because it has changed, but because you have. Your thinking has softened, your frequency has elevated, and the quality of your life has become the natural result. And as you continue on this path, not forward, but inward, you begin to realize that life has always been speaking to you in the language of reflection. Not punishment, not reward, but feedback. It shows you again and again the quality of your thoughts made visible. If your world is chaotic, perhaps your inner world has been cluttered. If your days feel heavy, perhaps your thoughts have been weighted by beliefs that no longer serve you. This is not to blame, this is to empower. Because if thought created it, thought can change it. You are not here to control every outcome. You are here to master your inner response to each outcome. That mastery is not stoicism, it is sacred receptivity. It is the art of choosing peace without the need for perfection. It is the quiet strength of being grounded in awareness, no matter what storms may come. And that grounding begins with one sacred habit: choosing higher thoughts. This is not about positive thinking as a mask. This is about truthful thinking as a mirror. Thinking that does not pretend life is perfect, but sees clearly that you are not the victim of it. That even when you do not control the wind, you can still set your sail, and your thoughts are the sail. So when the day begins, ask yourself, what direction will I sail today? Will you drift with the currents of fear? Will you replay the grievances of yesterday and call it truth? Will you grip tightly to your judgments and call it strength? Or will you release, not because you're giving up, but because you're waking up? Waking up to the truth that your mind is not a prison unless you let it become one. Your power lies in awareness. Awareness that watches thought without clinging to it. Awareness that sees a fearful thought and smiles gently, saying, I hear you, but I do not follow you. Awareness that witnesses an old wound rising and says, I understand. And I choose to bless it, not repeat it. This is the quiet revolution, the inner uprising that changes everything not by force but by vision, by returning to the truth that thought is creative, not reactive, that your experience of life is not happening to you, but through you, through the lens of your beliefs, through the patterns of your focus, through the tone of your self-talk. Speak to yourself kindly, not because it's trendy, but because your cells are listening, your nervous system is listening, your energy field is listening, and every thought you repeat becomes a vibration in your body, a signal to your reality, a prophecy unfolding in silence. So speak with reverence, even when you're tired, even when you're unsure, especially when you're afraid. That is when the power of your thinking becomes sacred. That is when you step not into illusion, but into alignment, into truth, into love. Not love as sentiment, but love as vibration, love as clarity. Love as the refusal to think thoughts that betray your divinity. Let your thinking become a prayer, not with folded hands, but with an open mind. Let every thought be a candle lit in the dark room of unconsciousness. Let your inner dialogue reflect your divine inheritance, not your conditioned past. You are not here to rehearse wounds. You are here to remember wholeness. And when you forget, as we all do, return again. Return to the breath, return to the stillness, return to the observer within you who has never been harmed, never been afraid, never been less than divine. That witness within you is your anchor. And when your thinking returns to that awareness, the world begins to respond in kind. You may notice people treating you differently. You may find synchronicities arriving with more ease. You may watch as what once felt like effort begins to feel like flow. This is not coincidence. This is coherence. Coherence between who you are, how you think, and what you allow yourself to feel. And when that coherence is present, miracles are not rare, they are natural. Because miracles are not events. They are perceptions. They are shifts in thinking from fear to love, from lack to trust, from separation to unity. And the more often you allow that shift in the quiet space of your mind, the more your entire life becomes a sanctuary of grace. You were never broken. You were only believing broken thoughts. You were never unworthy. You were only echoing unworthy beliefs. You were never disconnected. You were only distracted. And now you remember. You remember that every thought is a paintbrush, and your life is the canvas. Paint with intention. Paint with vision. Paint with love. Because the masterpiece of your life is not made with your hands, it's made with your mind. Then let us keep walking gently, steadily, down this sacred path of remembering. Because remembering who you are is not a grand announcement, not a mountaintop moment with trumpets and crowds. It is a soft return, a humble realignment with the center of your being. And that return begins with a single conscious thought. I no longer choose to think in opposition to my soul. You see, the soul doesn't argue. It doesn't scream. It doesn't compete for your attention. It simply waits quietly, faithfully, lovingly beneath the chatter of the mind. And when your thinking finally slows, when you stop rehearsing the noise long enough to be still, you feel it. That calm, sacred knowing, that presence that cannot be described, only experienced. That is who you are beneath the thoughts. But most people never meet that presence because they are too busy managing a mind that was never taught how to rest. A mind trained in survival, not serenity. A mind so addicted to solving problems that it forgets the greatest solution is often surrender. And here's the paradox. The more you try to control your thinking through force, the more chaotic it becomes. Because the ego loves a fight, but the soul whispers, there is nothing to fight. There is only something to release. So release it. Release the idea that your thoughts define you. Release the belief that your worth must be earned. Release the illusion that peace is conditional. And in that releasing, you begin to rise, not with effort, but with ease. Because the heavy thoughts fall away, and what remains is light. And what is light always remembers how to rise. The quality of your life, beloved, is not about the things you can accumulate, not about the titles you can achieve, not even about the milestones you cross. The quality of your life is about the quality of your presence. And presence is the gift you give yourself when your thoughts no longer drag you away from the now. In this moment here, now there is no problem. There is only breath. There is only being. And there is the choice right here to think a thought that brings you closer to peace. A thought that opens the window rather than slams the door. A thought that loves instead of judges. a thought that forgives instead of punishes, a thought that lifts instead of locks. And yes, you are allowed to choose those thoughts, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because those are the moments that shape the landscape of your life. Anyone can think beautifully when things are easy, but to think lovingly in the face of fear, to think kindly when the world is cruel, to think abundantly when the bank account says otherwise, that is the true power of spiritual maturity. That is the fire of awakened thinking. That is the light that cannot be put out by circumstance. You are not your old reactions. You are not your unconscious habits. You are not your childhood programming. You are not your inner critic. You are not your inherited shame. You are not the wounds of your lineage. You are the sky that holds it all. You are the space between the thoughts. You are the stillness beneath the storm. And in that stillness, you are free. From this stillness, begin again. Begin thinking in the language of truth. I am here. I am whole. I am aligned. I am willing. I am enough. You don't need the world to agree with you to think in alignment with love. You don't need proof to think in alignment with abundance. You don't need apologies to think in alignment with forgiveness. The outer world does not need to shift first. You do. And once you do, the world, as if by divine reflection, follows. Not always instantly, not always in the ways you expect, but always faithfully, because your outer world is a delayed reflection of your inner devotion. So devote yourself to thoughts that heal, to thoughts that build, to thoughts that honor your sacredness. Devote yourself to thinking like someone who knows they are connected to Source, because you are. You always have been. No thought can sever that connection. But every thought can either obscure it or reveal it. Choose the thoughts that reveal. Choose the thoughts that set you free. Choose the thoughts that invite miracles. Because when the quality of your thinking rises, your whole life becomes a reflection of heaven lived on earth. And the door to that heaven is always unlocked. You simply need to think your way home. Then let us in, not with noise, but with a whisper, the kind that reaches deeper than any shout ever could. Your life is not waiting on the outside. It is blooming from the inside. You are not here to collect thoughts like trophies or chase perfection through the mind. You are here to think in alignment with the truth you already are. So pause, breathe, and remember, the quality of your life is the quality of the thoughts you nurture when no one else is listening. Choose thoughts that return you to peace. Choose thoughts that remember your wholeness. Choose thoughts that make room for grace. And when in doubt, choose love. Because the most powerful thought you will ever think is, I already am. And from that knowing, everything changes forever.